Canines are our passion. They are our addiction. They are our way of life, right down to the very core. And without them, we would be lost. The canines of this world really are something to behold. They assist us at work. They accompany us at home. And they perform for us in the field. No matter where we go, they are by our side. Canines really are a ride or die, and for that, we are grateful. This podcast will showcase working canines of various breeds and disciplines as we search for those canines and their handlers who are always striving to be the best at what they do. Those who are always grinding. Those who are always pushing the limits. Those who are always dogging. Join us on our adventures as it is sure to be a wild ride. I'm your host, Bryce Matthews.
And I'm your co-host, Stephen Basham.
And this is Semper Doggin. Welcome to another episode of the Semper Doggin podcast. Guys, I am your host, Bryce Matthews, and today I am flying solo. I was actually able to come over here to our guest house. Mr. Chad McCoin from Hartford City, Indiana, lives over here close to where I work. So we're able to do an in-person interview today, which is always better than if we have to do them over the phone, over Zoom, however we have to do those. In-person's always better. So Basham is going to skip out today, and we're just going to ride solo. So Mr. Chad, how are you today, brother?
I'm doing great.
That is awesome. So guys, we're going to get to talking here with Chad. He has done a ton of winning with black and tans. As long as I've known Chad, he's been toting around a black and tan. We're sitting here in his hunting room, and I can't even count how many Grand 16 trophies are in the wall. We've got high-scoring dog trophies. We just have a hunting room full of trophies, all done with black and tans, which, it's not to sound however you want to call it, but it's just not very popular these days. A lot of times, them Walker dogs are the ones up top, and y'all hear us give everybody a bunch of crap, but Chad has been one who's stuck tried and true to his breed of choice. He's a black and tan man, and we're going to learn all about it today. So, Chad, I'm ready to get into it, buddy.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so let's just start off here. Give us a little bit of background. Like, how did you start coon hunting? Who did you start going with? What was your influential growing up, I guess, with the black and tan breed?
Well, before the black and tan breed, my dad always coon hunted, so, like, when I was younger, he'd take me, and he'd hunt whatever tree of coon. That's when coons was worth a little bit of money. So we'd go out and, it's just extra cash. So he was a pleasure hunter. He didn't competition hunt or anything like that. So we had walkers, whatever, blue dogs. So for years, I wanted a dog, and Dad kind of got out of it for a minute when the prices went down. So I decided, well, I want to start hunting. And Dad knew a guy named Jack. I think his name was Jack Elliott. And he was he had Walker dogs. And he brought some, and he was from Illinois. And he brought some young dogs over. And we went to the woods down the road. So when we went down, they was only like 6 months old. We turned them loose. They ran in there and treated a coon. I was like, wow. But at the time, he only wanted like $600 a piece. And we was like, well, Dad's like, I think we better get an older dog. Well, probably should have bought them because they ended up being nice granites. And one, I think one of them's name was Brownie, if I remember right. But so anyways, Dad would go to Kenton and all that. We'd go over there and he'd buy a whole bunch of dogs. We'd bring them home, see if any of them was any good.
Man, that is Kenton, Ohio, right?
Yep.
I've heard people talk about that for the last month. For whatever reason, that event and place just keeps getting brought up, and I never got to experience that, but I heard that was a heck of a deal.
It was wild over there.
Like, it was more than just coon dogs.
It was more than guns, just people falling over drunk.
Yeah, I heard it was just rowdy.
Crazy. Yes, it was. So, ended up, Dad bought some trade dogs. They'd tree coons. They wasn't too bad. And I remember I bought there was a guy named Bob Welder down in Greenfield, Indiana. And he had a blue dog named Gator. So we go down there to try old Gator. I think he wanted like $1,000 for him. We tried him. He treated a couple coons. But then the guy backs out on selling him to us. So we're like, okay. So I go back home. Well, he didn't want to sell him. And after we tried him, he treed a few coons, and I think I bought some pups off of him, and they ended up, he was bred to that Spring Hill Blue Jenny, who's like the all-time reproducer, and he was just a PR dog, and she was too, I think. And I guess that whole litter ended up like 4 or 5 of them titled. Well, one of them I had named Rebel, and at 8 months old, he was like treeing coons like you wouldn't believe. Well, Bob called me up, and he wanted to trade Gator for Rebel. So I ended up going down there. He traded me, and I think I gave him $200 and traded.
Yeah.
Got Gator. And Gator was just a coon treeing fool. He chewed real bad on the tree. So the two would get him. I put him in a couple hunts when I was younger. And, I won. I think I got third in a Governor Cup qualifier over at Union City when that was a club. So, I was always nervous going to the hunts. I think I don't even know if I was 16 yet, or I might have been 16. I think I was just driving. But I remember I'd go to the hunts and just be all nervous all day long. But the two got him numerous times, and he was a litter mate to that Broadaxe Max, who was on the reproducers list for a long time. But Gator ended up living till, I'd say he was 16 years old. Before.
That's pretty good age for a hound dog.
And my dad would hunt him some. So I ended up over at Kenton. Freeland White used to set up and sell pups out of the Black River dogs.
I have heard that name, but probably from talking to you.
Yeah. So Freeland, he'd go over there and set them up. So I remember going to Autumn Oaks one year, and there's a kid named Dustin Bells had this dog sitting. He had like a flyer made up. It said Black River Hammer. And he was a little over a year old. And I remember asking him, like, what do you want for the dog? And I think it was $900 on the flyer. And I was like, you take $500 for it.
Wheeling and dealing.
And he was like, no, I will not. So I take the flyer home with me. And Gator was getting up there in age. And so Dad would hunt him, and I had some other blue dogs. They was okay. They was just, they would tree coons, but I wanted something that maybe I could competition hunt a little bit. So I remember that boy, I called him up. It was, I'd say a few weeks after Autumn Oaks. And he said he'd sold the dog, but he was going to get him back because the good dog went to Virginia or something, and he went too far. I was like, okay. So I remember when he got him back, he called me up and said he needed truck insurance money. And I think he was still in high school.
And you're how old at this point?
This was probably 23 years ago. I was probably about 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
He calls me up and says, hey, I need truck insurance money. He's like $700 and some dollars. Like, sure. Come over here and we'll try him. So he brings him over, and I think he was hunting some red bones for them Copelands. So like them Copeland red hot red bones back in the day. And I had this blue dog, the name, what was his name? Sam. Sam was a pretty good dog. We turned him loose, and hammer treed 5 coons on him. I was like, oh my, I was thinking, all right, I'm going to have to try to wheel and deal and get this dog.
Yeah.
So, ended up, I asked him, what's the bottom dollar? And then I think I had to give him $675 and 22 that I had.
You just had to wheel and deal, didn't you? You cannot make a deal with somebody without wheeling and dealing with them.
I know.
Goodness gracious. It just cracks me up. Yeah. Every time I've ever heard you tell a story, you're wheeling and dealing with somebody.
You got to deal with somebody. So I had old Hammer, and I really didn't competition hunt much then. I was just more of a pleasure hunter. And I don't know if I took him to a hunt till he was maybe 4 or 5. I'm trying to remember when I actually really started taking him to the hunts. But I remember I'd always get real nervous going to the hunt. Be like, I wouldn't hunt all summer long, and then be like, it's October, let's start getting the dog ready. Mm-hmm. And so then I ended up looking the book, and you'd be like, there's a hunt this weekend, so let's go to it. And I hadn't hunted him all summer. Well, I ended up making him night champion. So, that was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, I got a good dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, he's a night champion. So, I remember I took him to Black and Tan Days, got him branded, because that guy would do it over there.
Doing freeze branding?
Do the freeze branding, got him branded, and it didn't turn out very well on him.
What did you put on it?
CM.
Okay, just for your name.
Just
All
my
right.
name,
I didn't know if
yeah.
you put like the BR for Black River.
No,
or...
just put CM. But I remember, so I was like thinking, well, I was always on the UKC message board looking for dogs. And I remember seeing a dog that was in Missouri listed, and his name was Dark Timber Scooby-Doo. And he was a night champion. He was like 16 months old. And I'm like, oh, he's got to be good, you know.
Yeah.
He's a night champion. I think the guy wanted $3,000 for him. And I tried to Jew the guy. He wouldn't take $2,500 or nothing. So I'm like, well, I guess the guy, and I said, can I try him? He's like, oh, I got all these people that said he's, here, you can call this guy, you can call this guy.
Yeah.
So the guy met me, I think it was in Brazil, at Plot Days. And he met me down there, and I picked the dog up, gave him $3,000 for him. So I brought him home, and I'm thinking, man, I got me a good one.
Yeah.
So I turned him loose behind the barn with another dog I had. It was an English dog because I didn't care what color at the time I had.
Right.
And they was running a track, and all of a sudden they got real far away sounding. I'm like, well, that's weird. And all of a sudden I had the old beep beep, and it was saying they was getting closer to me, but I could barely hear them. They went in a tile.
Oh boy.
And got in about a half a mile underground.
Oh no.
And I remember I called my dad. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. He come down, and we dug at a riser. And we got down there where the tile switched over into a smaller, or to a bigger tile. And we dug them out, got them out. Actually, the little female actually went plumb through. She went probably 3/4 of a mile through and got out at the road. But I got him out, Scooby out. So then I was all nervous, to turn the dog loose. And so I got insurance on the dog. $3,000 at the time to me was a lot of money.
So insurance on a dog, I always thought that was like something relatively new, but this has been around for a while then.
That's had to be around, well, that was almost 20 years ago, I'm assuming.
And they were, okay.
So I think I got insurance on him at State Farm. It was like $600 for the year.
Yeah.
So I get this insurance. So then I would start hunting this dog. The thing was, he wouldn't hardly hunt by himself. And then when he did tree, he treed more possums than he ever did coon. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this dog, I tried. Like, I took him out with Hammer, and Hammer destroyed him. Like, I was like, I got a good screw in here.
Yeah.
So then I ended up having to trade him to our buddy Shane.
Oh, Shane Smith.
Shane Smith. And Shane did some concrete work for him. And then Shane ends up trading him for like a pontoon boat.
So this dog just got passed around.
He got passed around. Well, then end up Timmy Waters over in Ohio ends up with the dog.
Yeah.
I think Scott Stewart might have owned him, and Timmy was hunting him for him. And they had AKC Black and Tan days over there. Timmy had never hunted this dog. Timmy takes that dog, and he wins that Kawasaki Mule.
Come on.
It was like $14,000 that year.
What?
I'm like, I had this dog over a year and a half, and I couldn't do that. I mean, I think Timmy ends up selling him to a guy in Georgia, or whoever owned him at the time. Sold him to a guy in Georgia, I think Bobby Vanderberg or something like that. And he wins a pro hunt, like a $4,000 pro hunt with this dog. And I'm thinking, man, this dog wouldn't do nothing for me. He wouldn't hunt by himself.
Yeah.
So that was always like my pet peeve. If they wouldn't go hunting, there's no way that I wanted them.
Well, you fixed that now, didn't you? We'll get into that later, but goodness gracious, we fixed that problem.
Yeah. But then Hammer, I made him a night champion. And then I remember I didn't know what his bloodline really came from. And I remember getting on the UKC message board and asking, like, does anybody know Dana and Freeland White? Like, know these dogs? So Ken Adair from New York messaged me, and he says, I own Sally, which is Hammer's mom, and he bought her from Dana. And they was pushing her in a PKC race up there in New York. And so he gave me their number, and I called them. And we started talking. Well, I wanted another dog and ended up buying a dog named Pipe Creek Black Magic. It was out of Pipe Creek Black Magic named Blackie.
Okay.
I called her Black River Blackie. And she was like 6-7 months old when I went up there and picked her up. And they was just pleasure hunters, Dana and Freeland. But they knew what it took to have a competition-style dog. But Blackie was more, I just really pleasure hunted more then. When she ended up being a nice dog, but then I wanted to get serious about competition hunting. And Dana and me, we always talked all the time on the phone. And he ended up calling me and said he had a nice dog named Buddy. And it was Alpha Sally's littermate brother and a female that was a Nelson's Northern Cash female. And he said, this dog needs to go where he can be pushed. He is a nice young dog. I think he was 13 months old or so. So I ended up having a guy meet me at a Love's truck stop and brought him down to me. I bought him off of Dana and started hunting. First night I take him hunting, he goes in there and gets treed. I was hunting him with Hammer. I was thinking, oh man, he just smoked old Hammer. And I go in there and there's a possum.
Oh boy.
I was thinking, oh my God.
Here we go again.
Yeah, and I called Dana up and I was like, man, I said, yeah, he beat old Hammer for sure. And he's like, oh yeah. I told him it was a possum. So then, Buddy was the one I feel like it put me on the map.
Right. So you still carry the Black River name. Like all your dogs are still Black River.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that wasn't something you'd come up with. You kind of just transferred that on. So do you feel like, in today's age, you're still associated with the original line of Black River, or people like distinguish Chad McCoin's Black River dogs from the Freeland White's Black River dogs?
I feel like, I don't mind carrying their name over because that's the line of dogs that they started probably 40 years ago. I don't even know. I mean, I've had it for 23 years.
Right.
So that's not a big issue. I just feel like, it's really, I can't say that it's my name.
Right.
They started it, but I'm the one that put them in the hunts and made them known.
Yeah, I just know that, so take me, for example, primarily a walker guy and fairly new to the scene, within the last 10 years of the competition stuff. When I hear Black River, I think Chad McCoin. Like, that's just what I think. So,
well, I would say that because they don't competition hunt.
Right.
So they're really not going to be known for that. If they was going to the hunts probably back in the day and winning like they would, that I have with these dogs, then they would probably be more known for that.
So you had Buddy and you had Blackie.
Yeah.
You bred them too, right? I
bred them too.
And is that like where your foundation started with those two dogs?
No, I would say so. I bred them too. It threw a couple decent dogs. I'm trying to think. So Dana ended up having a dog named Buffy, who, when I bought Buddy, he had just bred Buddy to a dog named Kate, which was a Black River bred dog too, which was Ace bred.
Okay.
Sent him up Ace bred. And he bred her, and so I bought Buddy. He ends up, she has, I'm trying to think how many pups. 5 maybe? I'm not sure. But anyhow, I remember we always talked all the time, and he said he had a nice one. I think he called her Spaz at the time, this female. And the female, he goes, so I go up there to get her, and me and Brad, my buddy Brad Heil, he's partners on my dogs now.
Yeah.
We go up there and we buy 2 dogs off of Buddy. This is the first litter he had, and the dog's name, I ended up calling her Buffy, and I think Danny called her Spaz.
Okay.
And then Brad bought a dog named Boy, Black River Boy. So we go up there and we get him, and Buffy was Buddy's first cross, and she was just an outstanding competition dog, and I kind of hunted dogs off of Buffy first.
Right, because you had a Buffy too, correct?
Yep, I've had Buffy 3.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I feel like, and I bred Buffy to my old hammer dog, Seaman.
Okay.
And that's where I got a dog named Muffy.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's just so many different dogs that I've had.
Yeah.
But I normally hunt the dogs that's off of my females that I've had.
Right.
Like Sadie. Sadie was off of Buddy, and Jeff Nelson's Mandy 2 dog. There's just a whole line of, and then Rapper, who was, I think, probably the second cross off of Buddy, and he was bred to a female that Dana had. That's name was Hazel, Black River Hazel.
Yeah. Rapper's the first dog I could think that I thinking back through the old memory bank, I think Rapper's the first dog that I was associated with you. Because everybody was like, this dog is off of Rapper, or they would talk about how Chad used to push Rapper and do all this stuff. So Rapper's the first dog that I remember associating with you.
And Rapper's actually still alive, but he's 13 and a half years old.
Oh, he's out there in the kennel?
He's out in the fence row. I got a big pen out in the fence row that he can just run, it's a big area for him to.
Oh, we get done with this podcast. We're going to go say hi to Rapper.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize he was still living.
He's still alive.
So you got these dogs that are living like 13, 16 something years old. Like, that's pretty good for hounds.
And then I've had some die at a young age. Like Muffy ended up dying at like 4 years old.
Really?
But hers, she got hung in a tree. So Muffy is a female that was off a Hammer and Buffy. And every hunt win that she had, she ended up being a Grand Night. And she won at all the major events. She's won at Winter Classic. She won at Autumn Oaks, Black and Tan Days. Trying to think where else. Leopard Hound Day she won. So all her big wins was at major events, not just a local club hunt.
Yeah.
But then she won the baby stakes. So the first time I ever took, she'd only been out like 9 times ever. Take her to the baby stakes. I remember she goes in there, trees a coon. The other dogs make a bunch of slicks. I go the next round. All these other dogs are making slicks. She don't know what she's doing, She gets struck in there, and at the end of the hunt, she gets treed, and it's on a den tree. And I was naive. I was thinking, well, man, I gotta find this coon. And it was like everybody's congratulating, because I'm the only one that made a legit tree.
And you're hunting PKC,
and
so
PKC,
you had a legit tree and didn't have no minus.
Yep. So she wins the baby stakes.
Yeah.
But she ends up getting hung in a tree when we was pleasure hunting. And she was in there treed. And next thing I know, she just shut up. And then she goes back to treeing probably 2-3 minutes after she had been treed. And I go in there and I told my brother-in-law, I said, man, look at that collar hanging in the tree. And there was her Garmin collar had slipped off her neck. And it was probably 5-6 foot up on a stick that was off the side of this tree. Well, what that had done, and I didn't realize this, is it damaged her vocal cords.
Like her windpipe?
Her windpipe.
Yeah.
So she ends up having laryngeal paralysis. She ends up getting pneumonia.
So Basham, that dog that he's pushing, Buddy, he has laryngeal paralysis.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't realize that was a thing, but that messed him up bad.
Oh.
And they don't know what caused it. But you'd go to hunt him whenever it'd get hot, and he'd be like, like he couldn't breathe, and then his voice went out, and you can't hunt him when it's hot. But they diagnosed him with laryngeal paralysis, so that's interesting.
So her voice went to crap, and I noticed she started gagging a lot in the kennel, and I was thinking, So this was before my sister she was actually in vet school, my sister was. And I take her to my local vet, and they was like, she's got pneumonia, and something else is going on. So we act like my sister owned this dog, because at Purdue, if you own the dog, it'd be half price.
That's right.
So this
is Brooke's precious little house dog.
So we take her over there, and she stays over there. They do all kinds of tests. And I actually had quite a bit of money wrapped up in it, even at half price. And to find out she had laryngeal paralysis, and they thought they could do a tie-back surgery on her like they do on racehorses. And so I was like, go ahead and do it. And they called me up, and she had no gag reflex. And they said they couldn't do it. And so they told me I had to retire her for good. And they said, I was like, well, I guess I'll just breed her. And they said, well, we don't recommend that. Well, this is where I was like, well, how's breeding going to affect her?
Yeah. So
I ended up breeding her to Rapper. And she ended up dying a week before she had her pups.
Oh, no.
So all that stress on her poor, and I mean, it bothered me.
Yeah.
They told me not to. Brooke told me not to. I didn't listen.
Anyways, right.
So you need to listen to your vet when they tell you not to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been guilty of that as well. Sometimes you just think you know better and you know the dog, and well, I'm just going to chance it anyways. And
yeah.
I mean, it ain't no good. If you got a pup or a dog getting ready to have pups and ends up passing, like,
I mean, it was horrible. Like I said, she was a week from having her pups, and
yeah,
I came out here and she was gone.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
So looking around here, like I see at least 5 Grand 16 trophies.
Should be 6.
Is there 6 of them?
Yeah.
Maybe I can't count, or maybe I'm missing one behind everything else. Let's talk about the Grand 16, because that is a hunt that has eluded me this whole time. I have missed it by a quarter. I've missed it by 50. Like, I cannot break into the Grand 16. Let's talk about some of the success you've had and which dogs you did it with.
So, with Buddy was the first time I ever got into it with him. I think he scored 750, 800 one night there at the Grand 16. Mm-hmm. So I advanced to the Grand 16. I think this might have been the second or first year that they had that different format.
Okay.
That they did this. And I remember you had a deadline by a certain time. Well, we ended up, I remember we turned loose. I think you had 90 minutes, but the deadline was real early. And we drove like 30 minutes, to go hunting.
Right.
I remember we got into it with another cast and had to call timeout. And Buddy was treed, and I couldn't score his tree because we was in with another cast.
Okay.
We ended up, we couldn't finish our hunt time. And the dog, so at the time, the dog that was winning, we just went ahead and that's the guy that won, which was disappointing because I didn't get a score tree.
Right.
But then Buddy got into Grand 16 once, Buffy got in it twice, Rapper got in it 3 times, and then Gaucho this year got into it once. But Rapper, it seemed like that was Rapper's hunt. He ended up winning night champions one year, first place. I think I scored 1175 or something with him. But my buddy Mike Poe handled him a couple times and got him in the Grand 16. Then I would take over from there. But Buffy got me in the Final Four once. And the old girl, I think she was 8 or 9. And and this is one thing I've been blessed with. These dogs don't need to be pounded.
Right. Like
a lot of people, pound these dogs. Old Buffy, Rapper ended up getting limes that year. And he wasn't looking too hot. And so I didn't take him, so I subbed her in, and she ends up scoring 850 and getting in. Well, then I get into the Final Four with her. And it was just bad luck. I think Jamie Eastep won it that year. We was hunting around a bunch of hot wire fences. And I remember right out of the get-go, she gets treed. And another dog, I think Nick Brady was on the cast too. And the coon jumps out of the tree.
Oh, no.
Into the creek.
Yeah.
So I get minused.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And she swims, goes on down, and trees the coon. So you plus that up. But I took 125 minus right off the get-go. So then ends up, we go out in these cow pastures. She gets shocked by the hot wire fence. I get minus for that.
Yeah.
It was just horrible bad luck when it come to that.
Yeah.
But Rapper, I don't know, he would shine at the Autumn Oaks. He would always put up a big score. Either me or Mike was hunting him. And like I said, and then I went on kind of a drought for a while. I couldn't get no big scores.
I was going to say, between Rapper and Gaucho, there's quite a few years there, right?
I would say it was probably 4 or 5 years since I'd been in the Grand 16 again.
Yeah.
And there was a pup off of Rapper then, Riley Lewis, his Grady dog. He ended up winning national. He didn't get in the Grand 16, but he got the national Grand Night for the Black Dogs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Grady, he was off of Rapper. And then, like I said, it's probably, I'd have to look in my yearbook to see, but it's probably been 5 years or so. And then Gaucho this year, he had a good score, had my buddy Mike guide me, and it's a coon zoo over there.
We should have got Mikey on this podcast. This would have took a whole different turn. I mean, we could have probably aired this into the Comedy Central side if old Mikey would have been on here.
He'd be shit talking all day.
That's hilarious. So, okay, like I said, guys, you guys know Semper Doggin. We talk about anything and everything. We go down rabbit holes here. I want to go down one here real quick and we'll come back. We'll get back on track with the timeline. But you just said go back and look at your yearbook. That is one thing that I think the Black and Tan Association does absolutely fantastic. If you guys have not seen a yearbook for the Black and Tan Association, you need to find somebody that hunts a black dog and is a member, or better yet, just become a member yourself. I'm a member of the Black and Tan Association, and I don't even hunt black dogs. But they put out a hardcover yearbook every year it's great. It is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And it chronologically syncs everything throughout the year, right? I mean, doesn't it start at the Grand American and then it goes all the way through? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the major hunts, the Black and Tan sectionals, they'll all be in there, the pictures and everything. Everybody that won at the zones, TOC, every hunt that's out there, it's going to be there. Yeah. All the big hunts.
Yeah, I think they do a great job with that. So kudos to the Black and Tan Association because that's fantastic. Okay, so Autumn Oaks, you've had really good luck there. Mm-hmm. Another event that I've seen you shine at is Winter Classic.
Yes.
You guys have had a bunch of very nice scores. You got second Winter Classic. Or did you win it?
No, I've got reserve overall 2 years in a row.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't think you'd won it yet. But still, that's impressive to take, dogs from Indiana, go all the way down to Batesville, Mississippi. It's a totally different environment, totally different type of hunting, and shine. And that's a hunt too. I want to get your input on this. Like, what do you think favors the black and tans and even the blue ticks? Because the Winter Classic, I mean, it's been, if you look throughout the last 10 years, the Walker dogs don't win it as much as your black and tans, your blue ticks. Like, what about that hunt do you think favors you guys?
You know, I don't know if it's because the leaves are off. I'm not saying Walker dogs are all slick treers, because it's proven that Walker dogs are the elite dog. You know, they win everything. But I really don't know what it is, the difference, because, you know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
I mean, the blue dogs and the black dogs, I feel like they most normally have a better nose. But even up here, the Walker dogs still dominate.
Right. So let's go back and forth here. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's speed? What do you think it is? Coming from a guy who is a black and tan man, do you think it's accuracy? Do you think it's... What do you think it is? Why do you think the other breeds are not where the Walkers are? And that's just the facts. Like, that's not opinions.
I think a lot of it has to do with speed and accuracy. And my black dogs in general, they hunt more like a Walker dog. I mean, you've hunted with them. A lot of other people will say that's not a black dog.
Yeah.
Because they're not lazy and they're fast about what they do. Now, mine's not the type that's going to sit and grub on a track all night.
Right.
You know, they're looking for a coon they can tree.
Did you make them that way, or is that natural?
That is natural. I'm not into man-making dogs.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not out here beating and shocking. You know, my dog is what he is.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about what I would say is your most prominent dog. We've talked about Rapper. He was one of your foundation dogs. You had Buddy. He was a foundation dog. You got a dog right now, Black River Lefty. Let's go into the story of Lefty. Tell me about where you got him to where he is now. And I'm probably going to interject a few times, but let's talk about Lefty.
So Lefty, I bred him. I bred Poncho, which is my...
Poncho? We didn't even talk about Poncho. How did we skip Poncho?
Poncho's Hall of Fame now.
Okay, hold on. Stop. Rewind. Back to Poncho. Let's talk on Poncho, because you just made him Hall of Fame last weekend.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about Poncho for a minute. He deserves some credit here. That dog's got 50 UKC cast wins. He's Hall of Famer now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Poncho.
So Poncho, he was off of my hammer dog. And my buddy Brad had a female named North Ohio Embry. She was a Grand Night female. She was off of Splitter and Honeycutt Abbey. And we bought her when she was like a year and a half old. And she was a nice dog. She was chop mouth all the way. So we ended up breeding her to Buddy. And then a couple of them made okay dogs. We bred her to Rapper. You know, got some decent dogs out of it. And I was like, Brad's like, I always liked Hammer. Hammer was one of his favorites because Hammer was just a dead loner, big hunting dog. So we used the frozen semen on her. Ends up, she has 3 pups. And Poncho was one. And I end up giving Poncho as a puppy to Trace Craig, my buddy Trace. He lives in Bluffton. He's about 40 minutes away. Trace is a real good puppy guy. So Trace comes down and gets him. And I think Poncho was he'd always keep me in the loop. Trace don't competition hunt. He just knows how to train a dog. Gets them going good. I remember he called me and he's like, I'm ready to sell him. I was like, all right. He priced him to me. It was very reasonable. I'm not going to say, but it was very reasonable. And I buy him. I think he was 12, 13 months old. I take him out. I think he's just treating coon after coon. And Poncho is a big hunting dog, big locate, just 100+ on the tree. Very classy dog. But then, remember kill season come in. I was driving to the woods on my Ranger, and a possum runs out in front of me. And he has yet to tree a possum. I hit this possum in my Ranger. I was like, oh, no big deal.
Yeah. I
turn him loose. This is the first night of kill season. He trees 5 possums in a row.
Oh, no.
I'm thinking, what in the world? He's not treating any possum. So he had a little possum problem there for a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's completely broke at 7 years old, but he's gamey, let's just say. But I got him where he'd leave him.
Yeah.
And but Poncho, I've won a lot of hunts with him. and he's been very consistent, and he has showed up at the right times.
Right.
He's impressed a lot of people. He's won at the Winter Classic numerous years. There's a hunt at the Black and Tan Days, the Classics champion. I think he's been in the Final four times. He's won it once. I've been in the Triple Crown. He got second. He tied for first in the Triple Crown, but I got beat on the points when it come to actual scores. Trying to think. Poncho is, I mean, he's won at the TOC. He's won his cast, the World Hunts. He's won he's been qualified for the World Hunt about every year.
Yeah. And he's a dog, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you need somebody to step in and handle that dog, he's going to hunt for Poncho, right? He doesn't hunt just for you.
No, Poncho hunts good for me other than Brad.
Right. Poor Brad. Poor Brad.
Brad and him they have like a love-hate relationship. Now, Brad's won some cast with him. And, Brad broke him out this year at Autumn Oaks, and he hadn't been out since the Winter Classic, and he wins his cast.
Yeah.
And, but Poncho, like I said, he's been very consistent. First dog I ever made Hall of Fame. He would have actually probably made Hall of Fame earlier in the year, but he ended up getting sick, and we thought he had lymphoma, and he actually has blasto.
At 7 years old.
And he's been being treated for it, and I actually took him to the hunt because he needed that one more win, and he hadn't been out since Autumn Oaks. He'd been out 3 times this year. Now, he's bred a bunch of females all year long.
Well, he's kind of the dog that everybody's wanting to go to right now for breeding, right?
Yeah, a lot of people's bred to him, and because he throws above average dogs. Maybe the whole litter may not be like outstanding, but there'll be 1 or 2 that's above average.
Right.
And that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got Lefty out of Poncho.
Yes, so I bred him to Sadie.
Okay.
Poncho to Sadie, and Sadie was one of my top reproducing females that I've ever owned. She was a heck of a dog herself. Dual Murphy hunted her a few times for me, and dual won with her at Black and Tan Days. Anybody could actually hunt Sadie and win with her because she's always going to be by herself. But Lefty, that whole cross that Lefty's off of, I ended up getting a pup. He was monkey-faced. I called Trace up, said, Trace, you want a pup? Sure. So he gets Lefty as a pup. He about the same age Poncho was. Trace is done with him when they gets him running and treeing. He calls me up and he says, I'm ready to sell him. So I buy him. And I take Lefty hunting. And Lefty is one of the wildest dogs. The first time I ever go hunting with Lefty, Trace hadn't decided to sell him yet. We go hunting. And we're hunting probably a mile and a half off the highway. And Lefty trees a coon. He recuts him. Then he gets on the road and runs down the road to the highway. And Trace, I'm like, man, we better get down there and get him. And Trace's like, oh, I ain't worried about it. And he crosses the highway like 3 times. And there's semis driving by. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So we end up getting him caught. And then it was probably a few weeks later, Trace sells him to me. But Lefty is a freak of nature when it comes to a black and tan.
Yeah.
I've never seen one that's even as a walker dog, like there's not too many it's faster than him. And he can be a mile or 2 miles in a matter of minutes.
And it's natural. Like that is
natural.
That is not done with the shock button.
No.
That's not done chasing him down. Like that is just how that dog was born. It's in his blood.
Yes. And if you the only time he's ever been shocked is I think he run a deer. And I shocked him. And hell, he wouldn't get treed. You had to run him down. So I was like, I learned you don't shock him.
Right.
And he is very consistent. I mean, you've hunted him. You didn't hunt with him but one time. And you go down to Black and Tan Days and you won. I mean, you dominated.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. I want to get into Black and Tan Days. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
So, but Lefty, okay. Let's just pick him apart. I want to do that because I have questions.
Okay.
Do you think that he had? So he's a freak of nature. We've talked about that. He is wild. He's wired 240. The dog has no gear 1. He skips straight to gears 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Do you think he has the nose that a typical black and tan does? Because usually I feel like he's flying around and those coons are easy to find. Like they ain't been up a tree real long.
Yeah, I would consider him to be more of an ambush style dog. Because I've seen him strike. He'll strike quick. Mm-hmm. And I think if it's a track he can't handle or he's going to tree real quick, he drops it and he's looking for the one that he can put up a bush. Mm-hmm. Because you don't tree very many dens.
No.
And I said, you're going to find a coon 95% of the time in Lefty's tree.
And I've hunted with him in the dead of winter when Duel was handling him.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that was an absolute living hell to hunt that dog in the dead of winter. Because he wasn't treeing those old tracks that were going into dens. That son of a gun was going to be here, there, and everywhere until he found one. And if they ain't moving when it's 10 degrees out and, quarter inch of snow on the ground, he's not going to stop and just pick a tree. He's running until he finds one. So that kind of, it impresses me to a point where it's like that dog has so much drive. But then it's also like, look, if it's like harder conditions, he's not going to be the dog that you're picking out to grab up a track.
No, he's not fun to hunt, especially when the coon ain't moving. I'd want him to take him hunting because you're just going to be driving around looking for him somewhere. Up by somebody's house, probably treed, where you're not supposed to be.
Yeah. And so Lefty, he started turning the heads of a lot of people at a pretty young age. Mm-hmm. What hunts, are there any memorable hunts that he won where you were like, had some people looking like, oh, like that was impressive?
So I went to the Super Stakes. I'd been in the Super Stakes numerous times, and it was hard for me to ever, I could always win a single cast. Muffy, I doubled up, won the baby stakes. But Sadie, Poncho, I won numerous early rounds. And even with my Buffy 2 dog, I won a bunch of early rounds, but I could never double up. Well, Lefty, the first year I take him, he goes down there, I win early, get beat late, but then he ends up getting a hernia, and I had to bring him back home because he got sick on me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Lefty's actually missing his left testicle.
I did know that.
So that's what's weird.
I did know that.
So he ends up getting a hernia, and we're like, well, so I hunted him only one night down there. He got beat late. So then the next year, he heals up from his hernia and all that. My sister does the surgery. And the next year I go down there, and on a Monday, I go down there, I double up. Well, I drew some of Ike Rainey's dogs. Dual Murphy was hunting his dogs. And Lefty put on a show. Lefty was treeing coons as fast as can be. And he beat some big-name dogs. And I remember it was in the late round, and we was going to his last tree to win. And I remember this guy is like, what would it take to buy that dog? And I'm like, I said a stupid number. Because I didn't want to sell the dog. I was like, well, I'm just going to scare him away. I'm just said this stupid number. Didn't think nothing of it. It wasn't the next day. Duel's texting me saying, I think we're going to buy your dog. I was like, Duel wasn't even the one asking me for the...
But Duel hunts for Ike.
Yes.
Okay. So, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Are you comfortable sharing what that scary number is?
I mean, it was 40,000.
That's for a coon dog and a black and tan nonetheless.
Yes.
That is unheard of. When I heard that number at Super Stakes, my jaw hit the ground. I don't know of any, and y'all are going to hang me at the stake for this, or burn me, whatever you're going to do. I've never heard of any off-color dog being offered that kind of money.
No, and I mouthed the price off. 99% of the people, it's going to scare them away.
Yeah.
So Duel ends up, I'm nervous. I don't want to sell this dog. And Duel's like, I think we might buy him. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I go back Friday to hunt. And I'm trying to avoid Duel because I really don't want to sell my dog.
Right. But 40 grand, Jack, that's a ton of money.
It is. But I was like, I didn't really care at the time. I was like, man, this dog's a good dog.
And this dog can get smoked on the road the way that he hunts.
Yep. And I remember, so Duel, they didn't buy him in the first round. And they ended up drawing Duel and Ike's dog the first round. And
you beat him.
And I beat him. And Duel's like, we want him. I was thinking, oh my. So the late round, they bought him. And I ended up hunting him late. And he didn't look very good late. And the dog that ended up winning the Super Stakes is who I drew in the heads up.
Okay, well that makes you feel a little better.
I think it was the Burden boys, one of their female.
Yeah, it was Zach Burden and Screamer.
Yeah, Screamer.
Or not Zach Burden, sorry, Sean Burden.
Yep, and Screamer.
Yeah.
So she ends up winning. She treated coon. I think I took a couple minuses, and Lefty just didn't look very good.
But they'd already signed the check at that point.
So I was nervous. I was sick to my stomach. I'd load him up in Brett Denny's dog box, and he's heading to Florida, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just sold this dog.
Let's go into that, because you've told me this story before, but like, what emotions do you have? You're driving home from Southern Indiana, Princeton. You got a 3-hour drive.
Yes.
You just sold a dog that is out of the stuff that you have bred. You didn't train the dog as a pup, but you got him back. He's out of your stuff. Like, how are you feeling in that point in time?
I'll be honest, I was sad.
Yeah.
Because yes, you got $40,000 for a dog, but the money wasn't the thing for me. I got more of an emotional attachment to these dogs.
Right.
And I was sick to my stomach I made myself sick. I'll be honest. That week I got sick the next week, and I was like, because I was just worried about it.
Yeah.
And then, I'm thinking, because I want people to take care of their animals, and I'm thinking, I want him to be taken care of, this and that. And I told him, if you ever want to get rid of him, let me know. And I wanted them to win something big, because I'm not going to go spend these stupid entries.
Yeah, and for people who might not know, selling a dog to Ike Rainey is a big deal, because that was at the time when Ike was pushing everything. Ike is a money man out of Florida. He's got some of the best handlers in the country handling for him. He will buy a dog if he likes it. He's bought some English dogs. He gave, I think, like $20,000 for the bear dog that was an English dog.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. I mean, he hunts predominantly walkers because that's what's winning. But if he finds a dog that he likes, he's going to buy that dog.
Oh, yeah.
And he has the funds to back that dog, to push that dog. If there's ever going to be a dog that gets a chance, it's going to be with the name Ike Rainey on the owner slip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the cards all fell into place at the right time for him to look good with the right people on the cast and make the transaction work. So your dog, you're sick, you're sad, you're upset, but you know that he's somewhere where he's going to get pushed, and he has an opportunity to do big, big things.
So they get him, they take him down there, and they wanted to win the breed race with him. They win $3,000 some in like just a couple months.
Are you in communication with them like during all this? Like, how did that work?
Oliver Wynn would message me and let me know.
Yeah.
And Duel would keep in touch about it, letting me know how he's doing. And then part of the deal was, when I sold him, I wanted to get him collected. So Duel ends up bringing him back up here so I can get him collected. So I take him, get him collected. Well, it's getting close to Autumn Oaks time. So I had won at the Winter Classic earlier in the year with him. I doubled up down there. I end up getting beat. Oh, I forget. I got reserve overall. So I was second. I can't remember which dog had actually won, but it didn't beat me by very much. And so Lefty looked like $1 million down there. I mean, he was just flying through the world treeing coons. But Autumn Oaks was coming up, and I told Duel, so he was still in my name in UKC. Ike hadn't transferred the papers over yet. So I was like, well, I'm going to hunt him at Autumn Oaks. They don't care. And they didn't care. So I go down there and I win my cast. Didn't have enough to get in Grand 16, but it put him in contentions for the Triple Crown. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, the World Hunt was coming up. I entered him in that. Well, I win at the zones. Now he's in the top 100. Well, Ike and him, they're wanting him in their name now.
Yeah, of course.
So, that's their dog.
Right.
And he wasn't mine at the time. So I go World Hunt, get in the top 100. He ends up, it got down that screwy Louis dog of Jeff Pedro.
Jeff Pedro. Yep.
Pedro. I think that dog ended up getting fifth that year. Mm-hmm. But it got down to the wire. I think he had 350. I had 300. Another dog had 300. We all treated two coons, but Louis had a better strike. Mm-hmm. And so I was world champion black and tan with him that year. And then Duel takes him back to Florida. I think they hunt him in a truck hunt. I think he gets in the top 16 in the truck hunt. But I think they'd won what they wanted to win, and Duel called me up and said they was going to sell him, give me first opportunity. So I ended up buying him back.
Right.
And then I get him back and take him to a few hunts, and then I have you actually hunt him at Black and Tan Days.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Black and Tan Days. And y'all know me. I just say what's on my mind. I don't sugarcoat it. It's just how it is. You called me up and said, "Hey, Brad's going to be busy farming.
Yes.
I need a guy to handle a dog.
Yeah.
And we need to rewind a minute.
Okay.
Before we get into this, when they had Lefty,
Yes.
you purchased another dog.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get into that. Let's get into what happened when they had Lefty. You didn't really have nothing to hunt. Young to push.
I had Poncho. So I was like, man, I need another dog.
Right.
And there's Randy Smith down in Mississippi. And I gave him a pup that he called Gaucho, who was off a Poncho and a buddy female. He is like 3/4 brother to Lefty. They both was off Poncho and they was off buddy females, but their moms was out of different dogs. So he'd been winning with a dog named Bottomland Gaucho. And Gaucho wasn't quite 2 yet. And I remember calling Randy up and I said, would you sell me Gaucho? I didn't tell him I sold Lefty. Mm-hmm. I didn't want people knowing that I sold Lefty yet.
Because it was kind of hush-hush there for a while.
I didn't say nothing to nobody. And Randy's like, well, I don't think I will. It wasn't 5 minutes later, he calls me back. He's like, I'll sell him to you. So he gives me a price. I said, I'll take him. Randy was like, oh, okay. So,
you had that money just sitting there.
So I ended up buying him, and he kept him down there. He brought him to me at Black and Tan Days.
Had you hunted with the dog before you bought him?
I never hunted with him.
But you just knew that Randy was a dog man?
I knew Randy was a good dog man, and he's trained a lot of good dogs and sold some good dogs. And so he brings him Black and Tan Days. I have him hunt him down there. He didn't have no luck. And I'd yet to hunt with the dog yet. I think Poncho got in the Final Four of the Champions Classic there in Ohio that year. So I bring Gaucho home, hunt him, and I was like, I think he was a dog that took a minute to get used to me. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, he's okay. He just didn't really wow me at the time. Well, then Gaucho, I won at Blue Tick Days. He doubled up there. And then I started winning some PKC hunts, a Pro Classic. I was like, oh, he's consistent. Like I'm winning like every cast I put him in. Then he gets hurt. And he has a hernia. And so the night after the Pro Classic, I come home. The next day, he's like sick acting. Mm-hmm. He ends up, my sister knows the vet, so I call her up. She's like, bring him in. We come in there. And his left, I think, one of his testicles went down into his abdomen. And his intestines, when she opened him up, was starting to die. So she, does a surgery, reconstructs them, puts them back together, takes the bad part out, puts it back together.
How much did she take out? This is crazy.
So he had one surgery where she maybe took 6 or 8 inches. Okay. 6 days later, I'm out here hosing the kennels down at 9 o'clock at night. And he starts thrashing around in the kennel. I'm like, oh no. I call her up. She's like, they came loose. So he's going septic. So I rush him up there to the clinic. She ends up opening him up. And she has to remove 80% of his small intestines.
Now, I want to stop real quick and just throw a big plug in for your sister. Uh-huh. At the time she did this, she's pretty new to owning a vet clinic.
Yes.
Your sister is not like an established, experienced vet at this point.
No, she's 32 years old now.
This is the biggest operation she's done, correct? Like close to it.
She done some other surgeries, but I would say this was probably one of the bigger ones on a dog of this value.
Right.
Let's just say.
I mean, and she stepped up in there and just took the bull by the horns and got it done.
And that's one thing I can say about her. She don't get nervous. She just goes in there. Even if she don't know what she's doing, she's figuring it out.
Yeah. And I'm going to get into that later. So, like I said, guys, we got some rabbit holes to get into. And I'm going to get into that because I have been super impressed. And her name is Dr. Brooke Little. She runs the Eaton Veterinary Clinic. And she's actually my vet now. But when she did that on Gaucho, like, that was a crunch, do, or literal die moment.
Oh, yeah. And she gave him a 15% chance of living. And I'm thinking, oh, my. So I can't hunt him for 3 months. So this is from July to October. So he ends up getting healed up, but he still acts like he's sore. Like when you'd hunt him, he would like stretch a lot and he wouldn't eat very good the next day. Well, then, so he progressively he went from 62 pounds, okay, He lost a little bit of weight right after the surgery. He probably maintained around 56, 57. But then the more I hunted him, like I noticed he was getting dehydrated. And I was like, man, I can't hunt this dog very hard because he's getting so dehydrated. And when he would go to the bathroom, it's just a total mess. Like he would have diarrhea like 10 times a day. Mm-hmm. And you know how dehydrated you get when you have diarrhea. So I'm trying all this stuff, trying to figure out how to keep weight on this dog. Eukanuba's, I'm talking to the Eukanuba nutritionist lady. They're sending me bags of dog food. We're giving him the stuff that they don't even sell in the stores, trying to figure this out. And the key thing was he got down to 47 pounds.
He looked like death warmed over.
I mean, I was at the Winter Classic and I was IV fluiding him. I took 4 bags of IV fluids. Brooke showed me how to IV him.
Yeah, guys, if you want to talk about dedication to a coonhound and showing the love for these dogs and how well that hunters take care of these dogs, just take notes right here. I mean, you took a whole IV setup all the way down to Mississippi. Yep. That way, after every round, this dog got the fluids that he needed to compete.
Yes, because he was so dehydrated and he didn't want to eat. He looked... I mean, I was embarrassed on how he'd look. Like, you walk him in front of people would be like, you need to feed that dog.
And they're judging. They don't know the story.
They don't know his story. So he goes down there. I win at that pro slam they have. I end up getting 3rd overall. And then he doubles up and gets reserve overall. He puts on a show, down there for the overall, and he looks amazing. Well, he just... I'm like, man, there's something we got to do to figure out to get weight on him. And Brooke's like, if you don't, we got to figure it. She goes, don't you still put him on that probiotic that I gave you? I said, I didn't know that. I was supposed to keep him on that. So he had no good gut health.
Right.
So he, no good bacteria in him. So we put him on Purina's Florida Flora and the Eukanuba dog food. And he gained 6 pounds in 1 week.
It just totally transformed.
That's been the key factor right there. So from then on, he's been golden. Yeah. And you can't even tell he's had anything wrong with him now.
Right.
I think he's staying about 58 pounds now.
Yeah. So that brings us to Black and Tan Days. Is you called me and said, hey, I'm going to hunt Gaucho.
Yep.
Brad's farming. He can't get off. Can you handle Lefty for me at Black and Tan Days? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I can. I've never hunted with the dog. And I said, we can figure it out, I guess. And you said, all right, well, let's go hunting one night. And so we did. You and I went hunting one night, hunting with Lefty. Yep. And got through the world with the coon. I mean, that's what he did. So, all right, we're ready to go here. And on the way down there, you told me something that I will never forget. You said, hey, I want you to know something. I said, all right, what's that? You said, you have a target on your back, and we haven't even walked in the door yet.
Yep.
And I said, well, why is that? You said, Lefty is the highest selling Black and Tan dog in history. He has done some of the most winning. You are a walker man. And you're walking into Black and Tan Days.
Yep.
You said, and this is a quote, so y'all don't get mad at me. You said the Black and Tan breed has some of the most jealous people in it that you will meet. And I took it at face value. I didn't think much about it. Until the first night's hunt. And boys, did it all come to fruition. Lefty strikes for 100, and he gets treed for 125 before anybody else even opened. He shut him out.
Yep.
Had a coon, deep and lonely. He gets lost the rest of the cast. There's nothing going on here. There's a house dog barking, but he just goes and gets lost. He's deep. He finally gets treed there towards the end of the hunt. And the judge looks me dead in the eye. He said, you're scratched. And I said, for what? He said, that's the dog I've been asking for a call all night. I said, well, we've been telling you that's a house dog all night. That ain't my dog. He said, I'm telling you right now, that's the dog I've been asking for a call, and you're scratched.
Yep.
And we took it back to the club, and to this day, I will stand on the hill that is one of the biggest screw-ins I've ever taken. Because that was the Champions Classic.
Oh, yeah.
That dog did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. But we 100% took a screw-in there. I will say that part of it was on my fault at the end of it, because after the panel come down and ruled on it, I was so daggone mad. I was red in the face and I was ready to come unglued, and I had to walk out rather than just question it and appeal it right there.
Yep.
Had I appealed it,
we would have won.
Knowing what I know now, we would have won. I'm not going to say who gave us a phone call the next day, but it was somebody very important and said, boys, I'm sorry how that happened. But they got it wrong. But it was on me, and I apologize for that here in front of everybody, that I kept him out of that because I should have appealed it. But I knew in my heart that that was wrong. And it pissed me off. Excuse my language. It made me so mad knowing that it was 100% out of spite.
Yep.
That we lost the cast, and then the panel upheld what was said in the woods. That made me mad.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about that. And I'm going to circle right back here. We're going to put a note right here. I'm going to circle right back to what happened after that night. But let's go back to that comment. You said the black and tan breed is very jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What do you see in that?
Well, I can't say that I've never been jealous. You're always jealous of whoever's winning and is at the top, because you want to be that person. You want them talking about your dog. And, when I was younger, I never understood why certain people would breed to certain people's dogs, because they never won nothing. I was thinking, well, why don't you breed to winners, dogs that are winning? I was winning everything back in the day with Buddy. I mean, he won at Walker Days, first place Grand Nights, Black and Tan Days, English Days, won first place Grand Nights. I'm taking a black dog winning, and nobody was hardly breeding to my dog. Mm-hmm. They was breeding to dogs that never really won nothing. And I just never understood that. So there was some jealousy on my part when it came to that. But then I started noticing I wasn't the only one. But when you are winning, people don't like you. Mm-hmm. I'll just be honest.
Yeah.
They get jealous.
And you told me something that I also, it stuck with me. You said that one of the differences in the other breeds, why they are not at the level that the Walker dogs are at, is because they would rather breed to somebody in their clique or to something in their kennel.
Yep.
Rather than breed to a dog that is winning. And I believe, and I'm not going to quote because I might not get 100%, but you said it doesn't matter if a Walker man if you and another guy in the Walker breed absolutely hate each other.
Yep. If
their dog is winning and you have a nice female, you two are going to put your issues aside for just a few minutes until that dog gets knotted up and them puppies are conceived.
That's true.
And then you can go back to hating each other.
Yep.
But for the most part, the Walker guys are trying to breed best to best. And it does not matter who owns it. It doesn't matter who's handled it. They just want a daggone good coon dog because the odds of producing a good coon dog are higher. I'm no breeder. I'm not claiming to be a breeder, but my thought process is breed the best of the best and things will work out, And I saw that down there at Black and 10 Days, just listening. I was a fly on the wall that week. I sat there and just listened, and I could see that. Like, guys talking about this dog from 30 years ago, and they're going to breed back to this dog they've got semen stored on for 15 years. And, he was a hell of a dog behind the barn, And it's like nobody was really talking about, hey, what can we do to better the breed and push the next litter and try and make things go forward, Do you think that's an accurate assumption?
Oh, definitely accurate. I mean, the black and tan breed in general, most of them are pleasure hunters. They don't want an ambush style dog or big hunting dog. They want one that will hunt the woods. And in today's world, in these hunts, you got to have a dog. It's a big hunting dog that's wild and crazy. That's going to have coons. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a handful of people in the black and tan breed that like that. But there's so much jealousy in it. It's, you're not going to change that. I feel like the black and tan breed is the worst when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And I've been there, like I said, I've been jealous myself. And you shouldn't be, but I think it's just human nature.
Right. So going right back to I said we were going to put a marker on there. We get hosed out of the Champions Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Took a screwing bad. And I remember we were going back to the tent, and you just looked at me and you said, I done told you. You said, you have a target on your back.
Well, yeah, everybody wants to say they beat Lefty. They don't care how they beat him, scratched, whatever. They want to say they beat him.
They want to say they beat him.
Yep.
And, if they can sleep well with it at night, that's fine. But I didn't sleep worth a darn.
Oh, I know you didn't.
I woke up mad. And boys, I'm telling you, I try not to get that way because I don't think it's the right way to be. But it made me so mad that I went out the next 2 nights with a daggone chip on my shoulder. I was like, and I try not to be cocky, but I'm like, listen, I know the rules. I know that I've got a dog that's capable, and y'all want to show me a screwing, we're just going to put it on you the old-fashioned way, just treeing coons. Like, that's just how it's going to be.
You did.
I took no prisoners, and I'm not trying to be cocky. Y'all, please don't take it that way. Hear my heart. I'm just saying, it pissed me off. And that dog barked if he stubbed his toe. We're striking for 100. That dog looks up, we're treeing for 125. Throw one locate, I dare you. We are treeing for 125. And that dog went out there, and it's not by me because I have nothing to do with Lefty. I've never trained the dog. Heck, I'd only hunted with him 2 nights prior to it.
Yep.
But that sucker went out there and put on a clinic. And I think he scored like 775 or something.
Yeah. You got first 2 nights in a row.
Absolutely throttled him. And he did it the right way. We didn't have to screw anybody. We didn't have to cheat. We didn't have to bend the rules. That dog went out there. He was fast, he was accurate, and he was on a mission.
Oh, yeah.
And I was impressed. Because that's really the first time that I'd ever handled that dog was that weekend.
Yep.
And like I said, we went back Thursday or Friday and Saturday, whatever it was, back-to-back nights, high-scoring dog. And I could almost feel daggers when I walked in after the hunt. Like people were looking because they knew I was mad, and I made it known I was mad.
You was walking around like a little banty rooster out there.
But I'm telling you, you could just feel it. It's like they're just looking like, oh, all right, well, I guess he meant it, But the point is, the dog looked absolutely phenomenal, and it really, really impressed me because I'm like, he's looked better than 90% of the walkers that I've turned loose.
Oh yeah,
the dog was just so fast about what he was doing, and he was accurate. He had his coons. And it was impressive. And I understand why, Ike and them wanted to be a part of that. And they wanted to do something with that, So I was super impressed with that. And I thought that, Lefty, we're up there. And this is something else I want to talk about. Like I said, I don't claim to be a breeder or anything, but we had Lefty and we had Poncho up there.
Gaucho.
We'd had Gaucho.
Oh, but
we took Poncho.
Yeah, I took Poncho. He had to breed some females.
So we had Lefty and Gaucho that we were hunting, but we took Poncho to breed too.
Yep.
And how do I want to say this? I don't want to say people were overlooking Lefty, but everybody wanted to breed to Poncho because Poncho threw Lefty and Gaucho. So they're wanting the people who are looking to go further and take it to the next level and go to the next tier and make it to the top and be in the final fours. They're wanting to breed to the dog that threw these 2 proven winners.
Yeah.
Are you still breeding to Poncho more than you are breeding to Lefty?
Yeah, actually, I've had more people. I thought more people would want to breed to Gaucho and Lefty, is what I thought, because they're what's winning and stuff. Well, Poncho's alive, so they want to breed to what produced Lefty and Gaucho. Mm-hmm. And he's through some other good dogs too. He's actually on the reproducers list, and I don't know how many Hall of Fame dogs. I know he's the only black and tan Hall of Fame dog that's on the reproducers list.
Yeah.
So, and Poncho's just 7.
Right.
Lefty just turned 4 and Gaucho's 3. But, I've bred Lefty twice. The first cross is a little over a year old, and 5 out of the 6 have got wins already.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, Lefty's going to reproduce maybe even better than Poncho. I have no idea. In Gaucho, we bred a female. I think it's those Watts guys down there in Georgia that have the black dog that they bought, and they hunted at the Super Stakes. They bred that dog's mom to Gaucho.
So, talking to the owners of Lefty's first litter, what does it sound like he's throwing? What type of dog does it sound like he's throwing? He's
throwing dogs that hunt extremely well, not to the extreme where it's stupid. They hunt what you put them in, and then they'll go to the next one. And they can tree coons like they have better noses than what their dad did.
Okay.
But this was off of a Rapper female, too. And Rapper could tree any type of coon.
Right.
I have one I call Hondo. And Hondo is extremely like Rapper Jr., and he's off of Lefty.
Is he your next big thing?
That's my next. I took him to hunt a couple weeks ago, and he won his first hunt. He's off by himself. Like, I think he's going to be my next big one.
Yeah. So, we've covered everything about Lefty, and let's talk about the differences though. Like Lefty and Gaucho, they're both off of Poncho. But they are totally different hunting style dogs.
Totally different.
So what is it about Gaucho's hunting style that maybe you like or dislike?
Well,
from
Gaucho
Lefty?
is more pleasurable to hunt. You turn Gaucho loose, he's going to hunt that woods out. He's going to go to the next one. But Gaucho can treat any type of coon. He can treat layups to hot ones to any type of coon. Mm-hmm. To where Lefty's looking more, he's running the edges. He's running straight through the woods looking for an ambush style.
Yeah, and around here, like, it's kind of dangerous to hunt Lefty.
He is a pain. I have like 4 woods that I can actually hunt him in. And then the other night I got, busted for trespassing.
Yeah. Boy, he just goes too damn far.
I mean, he was 200 yards on this guy's property, and the guy met me before I got to the tree.
Love it. It's deer season.
Oh, yeah, and he was mad.
Yeah, you love it. Dog's going to get you some new territory.
He always does. You never know when you turn him loose where he's going to go.
Yeah.
But Gaucho, in my opinion, is more pleasurable to hunt. But Lefty, I can take either one of them, and I feel like I'm going to... I mean, I won like 43 out of 50 casts with Gaucho. That's PKC and UKC. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a pretty good percentage.
That's fantastic.
And Lefty is the same style. Like, I can win 80% of my cast with him. Yeah. You're never out of the game with either one of those dogs.
Yeah, and I mean, you took both of them over there to the PKC black and tan hunt, right?
Yep.
Here a couple months ago.
Yep.
And you did pretty well over there.
We won first and second. Lefty won first and Gaucho won second. We both won, and they just said, well, you going to hunt it off? I said, no, might as well let Lefty have it all because it almost makes him a gold champion.
Right. So, yeah, and to be a gold champion, I mean, that's $10,000.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that's substantial, but for the black and tan breed, there's not that many.
Yeah.
There's just not that many.
Like, my buddy dog produced a dog named Nelson's Northern Dixie, and she's a platinum champion.
And that's Jeff Nelson's
dog. And she's off of Buddy.
Yeah. And that's, absolutely fantastic. That's $20,000.
Yeah, I think she won $24,000.
Yeah. You just look down through the records, and there's just not that many that aren't walkers that have done that.
So I think in the black and tan, for the PKC breed thing, I think Poncho's won the breed hunt. Sadie won the breed hunt. Rapper was second the year that Sadie won it. Buddy was third one year. I think in the last 10 years, it's been almost a Black River dog.
Yeah.
About every year.
And that's fantastic,
They've been in the Final Four, I would say, the last 8 to 10 years.
Like, do you feel... You've got to feel a sense of pride.
Oh, I mean, I'm proud of these dogs.
Yeah, as you should be.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been good to you. You've had great success with them. Do you ever feel like you would ever entertain hunting something other than a black and tan? Or are you a black and tan man till the day you die?
And I guess until I run out of this line of dog, like, I've done it for 23 years and had the same line. I keep breeding my own dogs, and they keep producing good ones.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got frozen semen on all my dogs, so I feel like I always will have something.
Yeah.
But I highly doubt I'll be hunting anything else.
Right.
But if I do, it'd be a plot.
A plot dog. I saw one running around here whenever I pulled in here
That's
tonight.
my house dog.
The old plot dog.
I always thought it'd be cool to have a plot dog as a good one.
Well, maybe we can hook you up with old Steve Fielder. Get you some bear pen fever. Catch the fever. Yeah. Hey, this has been fantastic, but I do want to circle around to something else and this is just a chance on a public forum to give credit where credit is due, and that is to your sister.
Oh yeah.
Guys, Dr. Brooke Little has been absolutely fantastic. You've heard what she did with Gaucho, and Chad just said something. She might not know it, but she's going to research it and figure it out.
Oh yeah.
And that's something that she did with me with Wheels. And you guys have heard me talk about it, but this summer Wheels was down and out. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was embarrassed to take the dog out. I couldn't win a cast if you put me in there with a poodle. Couldn't win a cast. And taking the dog over to Brooke, and she is a vet who you can sit there and talk to, and she will listen. She's not trying to push you through to get to her next appointment. She understands these hounds and their job and their purpose and will take the time to figure it out. You know, I was super impressed. Whenever we figured out that, you know, Wheels was dealing with Ehrlichia, she called me one day, and I don't even know if you know this or not, but she called me, and we had a 45-minute conversation in the middle of the day on the phone.
Okay.
And I feel like that is unheard of with a vet, because in 45 minutes, think of how many dogs they can see in that time.
Yeah.
You know, they can push them through. But her and I went back and forth on treatment options and weighing the pros and cons on what to do with it. And I had mentioned the Imazole shot to her. Mm-hmm. And she's like, look, I don't know a ton about it, but give me a couple days to figure it out. And I was like, okay. I said, but I think this is a route that I need to go. And I've heard of other vets not wanting to use it.
Yep.
And she called me back 2 days later and she said, hey, I've done my research on it. She's like, I think that it is the treatment that will work. She's like, I want to administer it that way that everything is done correctly. Bring the dog in and we'll do this treatment and see what happens with him. And I'm telling you, my experience over there at Eaton Veterinary Clinic has been second to none. It's fantastic. And I just want to give her a shout out because she does a really good job.
Oh, I've sent a lot of coon hunters there because Brooke understands that coon hunters are different than like your normal people, you know, and she'll listen to you. If you think your dog ain't doing this or that right, she's willing to listen and we'll try things. Yeah. And she's actually fixed quite a few dogs in the last few months that I know that are big winners that started, you know, doing something that they normally wouldn't do. And she's figured it out and got them right. Yeah, because
I've been to other vets and I tell them, like, hey, my dog's just not operating the same. And I'm not saying they don't know what they're talking about, but they don't dive into it the way that she dives into it.
No.
And they don't understand that, you know, we spend so many hours with these dogs and we know their every move. When they make an off bark, we know what they're doing. Like we're in sync with these dogs. It's not just a dog who lays on the couch and you feed him a pizza roll, you know, every night. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, those people spend a lot of time with their dogs too, but you know, it's just not the same.
No.
You're not on the same wavelength. But she takes so much pride in her customers, her dogs, like her patients, and making sure that they get the best care, the best treatment. Her staff is great. I mean, I've had nothing but good experiences over there. And, you know, they're constantly improving the facility over there.
Oh, yeah.
I see where she's just doing some additions there onto the facility.
Yep.
And even goes so far as the littlest things. Whenever at the World Hunt, I think there was 3 or 4 of her patients that were in the top 100. And she made a little Facebook post, you know, congratulations to our patients. And a quote that stuck out to me, she said, we love seeing our patients do what they are bred to do.
Yep.
And I was like, that is impressive to me because a lot of people don't understand that these are working dogs. They have a job. We care about them. I mean, you just sat there and told a story about how you took an IV bag all the way to Mississippi for your dog.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and she showed you how to do it.
She showed me how to do it, and he got 4 bags of IV fluids, you know, while I was down there the whole time. Yeah. Just to keep him going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to give a big shout out to her. Hopefully she listens to this podcast and she understands how much we appreciate her and what she does over there because, you know, it's an hour and a half almost for me to get over here to her.
Oh, yeah.
But there is not a vet with any closer distance that I would trust my dog with right now. You know, Wheels is sick, or if I got another dog sick, load him up. We're driving to Eaton. You know, it's worth it for me to know that I'm going to be put in good hands and have good care. So just, Brooke, thank you for what you do. Mm-hmm. Buddy, I think that has really covered about everything I want to talk about. Do you got anything that we've missed?
Oh, I imagine there's dogs of the past that you could talk about, but that could be hours.
It could be. You know, this has been fantastic. And guys, I just wanted to say thank you to Chad for sitting down with me because I know he's a busy man. I mean, he shoes horses by day. He runs a farm. He's got part to do with the vet clinic. I mean, he's got a ton going on, but, you know, and not to toot his own horn, but he's got some of the best black dogs in the country. And for a guy to have all that going on and take them to these major events, consistently win, and I feel like you show up with a target on your back sometimes too.
But, I guarantee I do.
You know, it is what it is when you're at the top.
Yeah, if you win, they don't like you. If you're not winning, they're your best friend. Yeah, well, you'll have that. But Chad, thanks again for sitting down with us today, man. I appreciate you joining us here on the Semper Doggin podcast. Look forward to see what you guys can do in the future with old Hondo, and hopefully you'll keep pushing old Lefty and Gaucho and put a few more wins on them. So I plan on it.
Maybe Brad can step it up a little bit, help you out, you know, pull his weight.
Yeah, we just need Bryce to switch over these black ones.
Oh, I don't know. Hey, Lefty put on a convincing argument.
He did.
He really did put on a convincing argument.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. I sure appreciate it, and it's been fun. So with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. And like I said, I just appreciate you taking time to join us today.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us here on the Semper Doggin podcast. We hope you'd enjoyed this one. Make sure you follow us on our Facebook group, the Semper Doggin Facebook group, or Semper Doggin podcast group, where we go live every other Tuesday for the Doggin Tuesday events. Those are interactive events where we go live, Basham and I, and you guys can comment on there. You can interact with us. We just have a heck of a time over there. It's super fun. There's a lot of good old coon hunting ribbon going on back and forth over there, and it's not all coon dogs either. So if you're somebody listening to this who wants to hear about something other than coon dogs, join us over there on the Doggin Tuesdays every other Tuesday. We appreciate everybody that lets us do what we do here, and once again, we couldn't do without you listeners. So thank you guys so much for joining Chad McCoin and I, Black River Kennels, on the Semper Doggin podcast. And with that, we'll see you later.